Hello and welcome to another episode of Agri Art. In this episode, we'll be covering a brief history of botanical art in the Netherlands. The paper I'm referencing is from 2015 and is by Missel, Liesbeth, and the paper I'm referencing is called Fascinating Plants, Dutch Botanical Art. This paper consists of summaries from a plant exposition show that existed between April 2015 to September 2015 in the Wageningen UR Library. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. The Dutch have a rich history of both producing and depicting flowers. This was especially true during the 17th century. Plants that were in fashion during these time periods were frequently depicted in different shapes and colors in various works of art. At the peak of tulip mania, many tulips were depicted as both paintings, drawings, books, and prints. One of the biggest works of art was a nursery catalog called Tulip Book of Peacock, a collection of watercolor paintings of different types of tulip with the prices listed. So yes, even the product catalogs were major works of art during this time period. The first dated occurrence of several plant species in the Netherlands was in fact depicted by drawings that the mayor of Delft, Henry Dyack, commissioned an anonymous copyist to draw. Based on the art design, this copyist was in fact also an illustrator for the Van Galeer family, writers of herbals and gardening manuscripts. Various botanical gardens and research institutes would also hire botanical artists to draw for them depictions of the various plant species that they collected. Other nurseries likewise would follow suit with the Tulip Book of Peacock, with several artists drawing in elegant detail various paintings of the various plants they had for sale. One such figure was Cons Boeck. He was a major artist who drew for the organization Amsterdam Hortus and several other nurseries. After tulip mania ended and carnations became the primary cash cow for the nursery industry, Cons Boeck drew a great many carnations for different catalogs, now into the late 17th century, early 18th century. Between 1612 and 1641, a figure by the name of Emanuel Swartz from Zevenbegen made a large number of flower depictions in a book called Florigia. He sold both his plants and his books at the market, as well as a Frankfurt book fair. The various depictions showcase a gradual increase in the number of striped and flame varieties of tulips increasing over time. The first shift away from tulip mania, however, was a gradual increase in interest in orange-flowered plants found in greenhouses, and such depictions were quite extensive. Even Carl Linnaeus in 1735 began focusing more and more on orange plants during that time period. Various artists, especially George Clifford, Georg Dionysius Ehart, and Jan Wandenleer, would all begin doing their work around 1700. One of the major depictors of greenhouse plants was the engraver and author Maria Sibylla Meren. There she depicted a great many plants, both flowers and fruits. After her death, her drawings were used to make a private edition floral book that was later published in Paris in 1768. By the 1800s, another botanical artist, Jan Kopp, started a monumental great work that no one living then would see the end of. It was a long series of paintings and art pieces depicting every single native plant species of the Netherlands. Jan Kopp was the writer and editor of these documents for the first 10 volumes, and acquired many artists from the Netherlands, although none of them signed their work. Based on current information, however, it is known that the second volume was mainly done by the artist G.J. van Oos, who lived between 1779 and 1862. This work was similar to his other work as a painter for service in Paris. The paintings made in Volume 8 were drawn almost exclusively by C.J. van Hulsting, who lived between 1813 and 1879, and H.A. Coles, who was the primary artist for volumes 13 to 18. This great work would be completed in 1934 with the completion of Volume 28. This book became known as the Flora Batava. Although most of the art has long since gone away, being replaced by reproductions, most of the first 13 volumes and a few of the 14th volume drawings are still preserved to this day in the Wageningen UR Library. Hello, I just want to let you know, if you want to fund this channel, you can do so on the platforms seen in the description below. During the 20th century, science became a rare key driver of botanical art. The Wageningen UR Library would during this time hire their own artists for botanical research purposes. Many of the new cultivars being bred at that time would be depicted by various artists. Such artists include Johann Hack, Ben van Ladden, Harman Mars during his younger years, and Louise Raymakers would be the primary artists for a time in the Wageningen UR Library. Harman Mars would later break away from this group to become a socialist-style painter, and Louise Raymakers would become a political cartoonist. Louise Raymakers, alongside Mr. Ramar, would be employed as teachers, training the next generation of botanical artists, and others would play a role in this process as well, such as Dr. Jan Risma Boss, Dr. A.M. Springer, and Dr. Leonard Springer. All these researchers and botanical artists would work together to create a large series of drawings, making a large work of fruit crops, ornamental trees, pollinators, and insect pests, specifically depictions of all of the above. One of their collaborators, Dr. Marianus van der Schlied, made a quite extensive list of illustrations of salamanes. Unfortunately, they were cut out of the paper and were instead fitted onto one sheet of paper. Dr. Bart van Togenaren made a detailed botanical anatomy drawing of various plants. One depiction in stone lithograph style is still preserved within this library to this day. The second half of the 20th century, botanical illustrators were employed extensively for what is now known as biosystematics, to draw a large series of black and white botanical species depictions, as well as depicting various cultivars. Between 1947 to 1970, this was done on behalf of Dr. H.J. Venema, during which time he worked for the botanical gardens of De Dergen, where various species and cultivars of hawthorn, crabapple, maple, and roses were continuously depicted. Another major researcher at that time was Professor H.C.D. de Witt, who had extensive work done on African plants on behalf of the Herbarium Vandenesse, and hired a great many botanical artists to depict these species. He also did extensive work on lettuce, ryegrass, nightshade, and beet depictions. As of right now, within the Wageningen UR Library, there are no more scientific illustrators being employed, and only the legacy of what was still remains. And that book covers everything. Thank you for watching.